and I'm a designer at Futurist. Um, just want to clarify, you see the keynote, or do you see the side video as well? I don't know how to, or just the keynote. Okay, anyway. um, so I'm here to share with you the core methodology behind our design practice and how it can help you in your next innovation project. My goal today is to help you understand the principle behind the lean service creation, get to know its design process, and introduce to you some of the most used canvas. So I'm trying to squeeze in a lot here, so bear with me and please let me know if I speak too fast or something. Um, so as Thor have mentioned, if you have questions, just leave it in the chat or Q&A section, and then we will go through it after the first two parts. And also I save some time at the end for the Q&A. So a bit about some quick facts about myself. My background is from computer science and media engineering. Uh, from the beginning of my career, I've grown more interest in understanding people need and creating desired products. So since then, I have found myself working and developing further toward user experience strategy and design. And throughout these years, I've seen that although there are many factors contributing into a successful digital product, the best ones are often created by taking into account both business viewpoint and customer needs. An amazing product or service, is it written here, is the one that tackle a problem not only from a business perspective, but also from the user perspective. And that's what we call a problem worth solving. This is even more crucial for innovative products because they often require or result in change of people behavior and big investment. At Futurist, with lean service creation, we help our clients success in finding this sweet spot. Uh, by the way, have any of you heard of lean service creation before? I'm not sure how you can answer, but um, so, but no worry if you haven't, because I will go through the principle behind and then give you a thorough introduction. So let's dig in. But first, a little bit about Futurist and why we developed the lean service creation. Um, since 2000, we have worked with clients in several industries to create digital service, help them improve their business strategy and their way of working, and also establish culture transformation in order to help them meet the challenge of digital disruption. With a long experience in the industry, we've acknowledged that for a business to success in this digital era, they essentially need four things: a strong software engineer foundation, passionate about customer experience, a culture that embrace innovation, and an ability to quickly adapt and respond to the market needs. So to help our clients in achieving all that, we have put together a set of tools and methods that support co-creation. This toolkit is open source, and our dedicated team within Futurist is constantly working on updating and making it better. So what exactly is lean service creation and how it can help you to succeed as well? First and foremost, lean service creation, or it is often called LSC, is a methodology that supports innovation process around complex problem. Uh, it is inspired by the principle behind three things: lean startup, design thinking, and agile. Lean startup is a business development method that applies lean way of thinking into innovation process. The word lean was first introduced to describe lean manufacturing production and by Toyota. And it's described a process that focuses on improving the flow efficiency and eliminating waste in effort. In business development, the goal of lean startup is to shorten the product development cycle and discover the viability of this business model as early as possible. And that is achieved by a combination of experimentation, iteration, and validation. Because you cannot know what you should build in the beginning, you have to experiment and fail rather early than later. And then maximize your learning progress. But having said all that, the truth is great service don't emerge from a brilliant mind, but rather from a long process of understanding the problem and finding the right solution. And how do we get there? That's where design thinking come in, to help us get closer to the customer and step in their shoes. The fundamental idea behind design thinking is to change the way of problem solving. A simple way to start solving a problem is to trust that your assumption is right, and then just jump right in working with the solution. But the thing is, if you don't understand your user, trusting your assumption usually leads to solving completely wrong problems. And if the problem is wrong, even a flawless execution, like this one in the picture, doesn't help. This little girl is thinking that or believing that she's saving a fish from drowning. And without a clear understanding of your user, you might end up saving a fish from drowning as well, no matter how good your intentions are. So what you're looking at is a design thinking process that developed by Stanford Design School, which is probably the most widely known as representative of a modern design process. It consists of 5 stages: empathize with the user, define user needs, ideate around that need, prototype on the idea, and test. The key principle of this process is to help shift the thinking from making something and then trying to get people to want them into really going through trouble of getting to know the customer, finding out what their needs and wants, and then start ideating your solution based on those insights. So making things that people want. Naturally, it's ideal to work from user perspective from the beginning. But even if you already have a core product in place, gaining empathy for user and your customer can still make a huge difference. Last but not least is Agile. What you're looking at here, the top part is a waterfall process in which is a linear way of developing products from planning to design to implementation, then testing, and then release. Agile development method break this process into small circle, and it helps minimize the amount of upfront planning and design, and therefore minimize the risk of doing something wrong, and also allows your product to adapt quicker to change. So what key thing we take away from Agile is that we cherish the ever-changing requirement through iteration, because that means you have better knowledge on your customer and your business. We're not trying to build everything at once, but rather in small parts and steps so that we can provide and deliver value to our customer early and also continuously. And last thing is an adaptive mindset, because Agile encourage flexible response in dealing with complex problem and complexity. One case example I would like to share with you in order to show how this approach has helped us and help our client in validating a potential business without too much investment upfront. Um, we did this with, this is an innovation project that we did with Helsinki Energy, now known as Helen, to address the change in the energy, to help them address the change in energy industry. So we did a couple of design workshop with them, and then a wild idea has emerged. Solar energy could be a major thing for Helen, which is a rather traditional energy provider in Finland. But if you think about Finland, solar power doesn't sound very feasible or viable due to the darkness. And there are also many unknown challenges for Helen in this crowd. And it's hard for them to see whether or not this is going to be a viable business. But then the value of this idea became more obvious when we talked to the user, interviewed them, see what people think about this idea. And people got really excited about solar as a service. And then it proven that there is a business potential for Helen here. In the end, the project was very successful because together with Helen, we have created the biggest solar plant in Finland, and they have solved all the panel within the 48 hours, even before any actual investment was made on implementation. So the big lesson learned from this is that getting from idea to implementation is very tricky. And very often, decision maker or investor needs to be convinced before, especially if you are breaking into new crowd. That brings us to the next section. How could LSC guide you in practice? An important thing to keep in mind when dealing with complex problems is that they require people from different competence, not only designer or business, but everyone that's relevant. And it is easier to change yourself than to change others, naturally. So in order to get your team to really collaborate on solving the problem, you need to have a shared language. And that's where the LSC comes in. LSC provides you an equal crowd for your team, your stakeholder, subcontractor, customer to start co-creating together. In practice, LSC consists a set of canvases that cover relevant phases in service creation process, from design to implementation and project management. Asking the right question at the right time is by far the most important part in creating a product or service. Each of these canvas has a series of questions that would help you find out the important information that you need at each particular phase in this process. And among this phase, design is the core of LSC, which we call service vision sprint. Let's zoom into that a little bit. So why design is so important? Because this is where you get your team on the same page of understanding whatever the problem you are trying to solve and whatever the solution that you are aiming to create. And by meeting the end user, understanding their needs, and together with them build this desired solution. One canvas can be used to help you clarify question at certain stage, or you can use many of them as a process guide. In this double diamond, the discover phase is where ideation happens. It is where you let your imagination and ideas flow. Although we have a single canvas called ideation, it is more like a process than a single step. And in order to come up with a successful solution at the end, there are a few things you need to sort out before you can go to ideate. Plus, ideation is more efficient if you, the better you understand your problem. So here you are looking at a common setup we have when working on ideation, from business idea to concepting to validation plan. Although it's look quite linear here, in reality, it's an iterative process. And most of these canvas are done a few times as the solution evolve and become more focused. There are many canvases here and also in overall in LSC. But remember, you don't always need to use them all. There are no exact order that you need to obey or follow when using the canvas. LSC is open for modification, and it should always be adjusted to your project at hand. No matter, although whatever you decided to use, make sure that the whole team is on the same page. It's not enough if you know it personally, but you need to get everyone on board. So in the next section, I will talk more about these four essential canvas and also the most commonly used in our projects, which are business objective and context, customer groups, ideation, concept, and value proposition. But before we go there, is there any question so far?
Yes, we do receive questions. Oh, yeah. And personally, I find that your presentation is really insightful, especially you mentioned about making people one. Because in the morning section, when Patrick, the CEO at QS, talked about the finished sub ecosystem, he said that one of the common mistakes of a startup is to not having, like, not solving the right problem. And yeah, that's, and with the LSC is also mentioned about this. And one question from the audiences is that I would like to ask more about creating things that people want. How do we balance between what people want and what they really need? Because instinctively, people want more than what they actually need, and that leads to the abundance and possibly the risks of waste or unsustainability.
Good question, and that is very true. Um, that's why in the design process you need iteration. So when we interview people the first time, we find out and understand from their point of view usually what they want and also what they need. And when we gather this insight and work on the design, we of course use also the insight from the business. What among this want and needs, what would fit into the business and what would give you the opportunity to grow your business, and then you iterate. So if you remember in the Agile, I mentioned that we don't build everything at once. So we don't build a big solution that has everything that people say they want and need and deliver it everything at once. But we work on picking the thing that we realize that is most important, and we work on that first. And then we develop it along with people input, iterate it, and make it into something that is truly essential and not just, how to say, I don't know, I lost the word, actually. Yeah, but iteration is the important part in this.
And yeah, maybe one follow-up question is that how do you know if that person want a thing or they need a thing?
Yes, that is true. That is one thing you keep in mind when you do interview is that people might say they want something, but actually they need something else. Like this very famous saying from Henry Ford that if people you ask what they want, they would say they want a faster horse, right? Uh, so in interview, you ask people and then they say, but then when you go and develop your solution, you will come back to them and validate whether or not your solution has meet their needs. Because if it meets their need, they will use it. And if it doesn't, then even if they have said that they wanted it, but they still don't use it. And that would be the clearest indicate for you that, okay, this is not really what they want, or this is not really what they need, it's just what they want. And when I say like having a solution and come back to validate, I don't mean like final developed solution, but you can, there's many ways in order to test a hypothesis on what people want or need through uh, low fidelity prototype or through different level of prototype, or sometimes just through a fake ads, which I will mention also in the later part through some canvas. With LSC, you will get to the process where you can really find out uh, what user really need.
Yes. And next question is, when you said that have everyone on board, do you mean that all the team member of the project or only the co-founder? What about stakeholders such as customer, partner?
Yes, when I said everyone, I mean everyone. So not only co-founder or uh, core member of the team, but of course, when you develop a new product or service, you have the core team who actually hands-on developing, design, and testing, and so on. But when you develop the idea, you need to involve everyone. Your business people, which are the key stakeholder, who are the investor, who put money in it, uh, and then you involve your any third party service provider who will contribute into the ecosystem of your service. This is also clarified through the canvas that we're going through later.
Yes. Another question is that as you mentioned about involving everyone, and there's is a challenge that not like with lack of time and resources. So kind of what should we take into account when we need to choose a canvas for a project?
Mm, I'm not sure if I understand. You mean at what stage you should choose what canvas to use?
Yeah, I
Or
think that's the better question.
yes. So yes, time and research is always the question when it comes to business and also doing workshop. And because you need to involve quite many people, you need to be efficient in whatever you do so that the time people spend working with you, you can get the most out of it. Um, of course, I'm speaking mainly from like a designer perspective. When we do workshop, people are very hesitant, or nowadays they are less hesitant because there has been proven of these design workshop and co-creation really work. But back in the day, people are not so enthusiastic in spending 2-3 hours together at one time working on things. But that's where LSC can help you in organize this canvas and asking the relevant question, because we have put together through many experience with different project and different innovation process. What is the core key question that you need at each stage? So you don't need to wondering what to ask, but you know exactly when you go into a workshop with the canvas, you can know already what the foundation you need to find out. And here I show that We have grouped also the canvas into different phases of process. So you can pick the canvas that is relevant to the phase that you are in. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I think you do.
Okay.
And yeah, another question before we continue.
Mm,
Could you show us an example with a client, if possible, the problem from the very beginning and the outcome?
mm,
Maybe
uh,
a bit more detail about one project that Futurai handle.
hmm. This is a bit tricky because we cannot share so much detail about what exactly we did with the clients and the detail of the process. But if we look back into the uh, Helsinki Helen Innovation Project, the clear problem they have in the beginning when they come to us is that they are a traditional company, very traditional, and the world is changing. The even energy industry is changing, and they need to be able to uh, be flexible, and they need to be able to compete with younger and faster adaptive company. And they want to also have a kind of new uh, business crowd, like new business within their company, and not just like cold, not just focus on cold energy. And if we think of the idea of solar energy, if you ask them in the beginning, like, why haven't you done solar energy? It probably doesn't get a lot of support because, first of all, we have 9 months of darkness in Finland, and it doesn't sound like something that would become a new business for them. So instead of just asking that question, we validate the idea by asking the people on the street or the customer of Helen, like, would they, if Helen offer solar energy, would they buy it? And how would they buy it? Uh, what would make it most desirable for them in order to start using energy from the solar panel? And that where we come up with this system where they can pre-order on the internet. And then it's also show the business decision maker and also the investor that, okay, people are actually interested and they are willing to buy. This is also a way for you to see when people say that, when you interview people say, yeah, I will buy it. And then when you bring them the platform where they actually buy it, where they need to input their payment, then you will also see, do they actually buy it? And if they actually put their payment and go through the whole process, then you know that it's actually what they need and also what they want.
Yes, really
Uh,
excellent answer. Yeah, I think now you can continue.
okay, let's continue to the next part because I see that many of your questions are very related to how this Canvas work and how it can guide you in practice, which hopefully I will cover in the next section. So let's start with business objective and context. If you remember the overlapping circle I showed in the beginning, when we create a new product or service, what we aim for is creating an amazing solution and a profitable business. And that is the overlapping spot between business problem and people problem. With this canvas, it will help you to identify your business problem. So before you start working on the canvas, you should discuss within your team what is the impact you aim to make, and whether or not it's a business impact or on a broader scale, societal impact or environmental impact. This will help you focus on the right goals when making the decision later on. Then define your purpose. Remember, you are not just building an app or a service. You want to achieve something bigger. So, and then it's also good to clarify the scope of your project at this stage. Then with that information at hand, you can fill in the inner box. Business, business objective should reflect your business goal and the problem that you or your company is trying to solve. A good business objective does not imply any predefined solution, and it should be able to be solved in many ways. So leave room for ideation. Your scope, when you fill in about your scope, it should answer the question, what is the ambition of the project to you and why? Is it to creating a new business or to disrupting an existing business or something of both? And last part is your purpose. How important is this project? Is it an experimental? Does it need to succeed? Or is it okay to fail? It's good to clarify it here so that it helps you to assess your achievement later on. Next is to define the context of your business. And here, in order to set the context, you should identify who need to be involved. Is it the stakeholder, internal stakeholder, or people from other projects, brand and marketing? So there was one question about who to involve. Here is where you need to think and discuss within your team who is relevant for this business, for this project and this business idea. And is there any essential third party? You don't need to add your customer here because they will be listed in a separate canvas with more detail. And then how do you want to success in achieving your business, or how do you know that you succeed in achieving your business objective? Through metric. So the clearer your metric are, the better you can measure your progress. And remember to keep them numerics. All companies have a positive handprint on the wall and also a negative footprint. And so all companies should work on having a strategy how to increase the positive impact and decrease the negative impact. And it's important that whatever new you create will fulfill this strategy. So write it down here. Last but not least is to identify your risk and restriction. And this will help you assessing your business, the viability of your business idea. So now that you have your business goal in place, next step is to get a better understanding of your customer, their needs and wishes. A little bit about human behavior. Why do we group? In social psychology, one of the well-known principles is that people often define themselves in terms of social grouping. These grouping are based on either physical commodity or shared values, or sometimes both. In business development, customer grouping is based on similar principle. So it is to help define group of people with similar needs and problem. But why do we need customer grouping? Because there is no such things as one solution fit all, and you cannot or should not aim to please everyone with your product, at least not in the beginning when you start. So you need to know where you want to focus. Customer grouping can help you identify your most and least potential customer group, and based on which you can direct your resource and effort along the process. So to the canvas. As the name implies, this canvas is to help you group your customer. Remember, you cannot get it right the first time. Refining your customer group based on what you learn is the secret here. Start with one group first, unless you are absolutely sure that there are two clearly different ones. As you learn more about your customer and their problem through interview, you might find reason to split the group further. And don't define your group based on basic demographic. It's not very insightful for you. Different group can have different problem worth solving. So embrace the problem. Usually you will feel this before you interview your user, because this is also help you identify who you want to interview. So it's important to note down here that the need is based on your assumption, and then try to validate them through interview. If these needs are based on your discussion with someone that you believe belong to your target group, then use interview to validate that this is the common needs of the groups. When you have your customer group ready, the next step is to go outside and talk to your customer. Do interview, collect insight. According to Google Design Spring, the minimum number of interview is 5, or like the optimal number is 5 interview. That's where you start to see repeating patterns and then start to form insight, like insightful insight. Oh my God. Okay. So what next? Now you have your business problem checked, your customer group defined, and then you have talked with several people in your group, in that group. Then you are allowed to work on your ideas for the solution. First, you can fill in the inner circle based on the insight from your interviews. You select one need or problem that you think solving it would help you achieve your business objective. And then write down the negative and positive feeling user have around that problem. Then you, with your team, together with your team, you brainstorming around these different ideas. If you already fall in love with some idea, write that down first, so you don't pondering around about it, and then work on new ideas. Couple of tips about brainstorming. Sometimes our creativity just doesn't flow as expected or as we want. So if your teams feel stuck, use the how might we technique. It can be used to reframe your current problem and then help move the team forwards. A good question is simple, but also challenge the status quo at the moment and slightly provocative. The how might we technique can help you form suggestive question, like how can we build something better? How might we build something better? And then if you want to have more provocative questions, start with what if. What if people don't want to pay for this solution? Better. A bit more about ideation. For a successful ideation or brainstorming section, make sure that you and your team follow these 7 rules. Avoid judgment. Creative space are judgment-free zone, so people can build upon each other ideas. Encourage why idea by embracing the most out-of-the-box notion, like solar panel in Finland. Try to use and instead of but when you build on top of each other. It will encourage positivity and inclusivity. Stay focused on the topic. Try to keep the discussion on target. This is hard, but try to keep one brief conversation at a time. Always think about the challenge of the topic and then stay on track. Be visual. Use color marker, post-it note, stick your idea around in the wall so that people can visualize them. And use as few words as possible, doodling if you feel like. And again, I can't stress enough, go for quantity, not quality. On average, any 60 minutes section, you should try to aim for about 100 ideas. So as many as possible. The best idea come from the pool of ideas. Now that you have a pool of ideas, so what next? You select your best idea of all these three idea group, and then form a concept, form a full concept from them. You might end up with multiple concepts to choose from. So keep your focus on customer problem, feasibility, and business potential while creating the concept. At this point, you might want to revisit your business objective and context canvas to remind yourself what is the objective that you're aiming at. And remember, this is not the description of your final concept, but rather your best first draft. So when work on the canvas, don't start with the name. Work on describing your concept first, how it works. Be precise and make sure you can explain it. What does the customer do and what happened behind the scene? Then what does the value of this solution bring to your customer? How does this stand out in the market? And what is the value for the business? At this point, you should have everything you need to write a good value proposition. Who are your customer or end user? What's their need or problem? And then how does your solution fix this? So you can make the sentence here on this box in the bottom. Yeah. And then after value proposition, then you can think of a name for your concept and creating a fake ask for this. This fake ask is like, think of it as the first prototype of your concept, and then you can use it to test your value proposition, whether or not people understand it, whether or not people like it. Keep it visual. And if you find it hard to explain your solution and the value proposition in this fake ask, then your concept might be too complicated. So you might want to revisit it a bit. The key thing when working on this canvas is to keep your focus on the values for your customer and your business, not the detail on operational or monetary, not yet. Just enough so that you can explain the concept in an understandable way. A couple of examples of what value proposition is not. First of all, it's not a slogan or a catchy phrase like L'Oreal, because we're worth it. Because it doesn't really explain to your audience why or how. Then it's not a positioning statement. American #1 bandage brand. Positioning statement is sort of a subset of value proposition, but they are not the same things because it doesn't tell the why. Why should they choose you? What the value proposition is that it helps your audience or your target customer understand how does your solution solve their problem, what the value it brings to them, and why the customer should choose yours instead of your competitor. Here I collect a couple of example from fairly good value proposition from different brands, big or small. Uh, some of these brands are very well known already, like Spotify or Shopify. So they don't need to go too much detail in how it works. But still, the important thing is to point out why people should choose you and what is the value that you bring to the customer or the user. Yes. But having said all this, if you would remember one thing from today, I would like you to remember that tools are only the most visible part of the culture, like the tips of the iceberg. LSE is much more than ink on paper. It is about the mindset and practice that makes successful service possible. What counts at the end of the day is not whether you use LSE canvas or other canvases or no canvas at all. It is whether you're really able to live and work by these five principles. Multidisciplinary teamwork, focus on the problem, be transparent on your process, iterating, and never stop learning, and understand the impact of your work and the big picture. So I would like to end with this quote that I really like. And we say it a lot within Futurists that success is not measured by delivering feature, but by the progress of your solution and how it has evolved in solving your customer problem. Thank you. And now we can take question. And now,
Yes, so really thank you for your presentation. And yeah, one person asked about where I can take the like the canvas, and yeah, I already answered that question. And for you, you can like visit the website and download the canvas there.
yes,
Uh,
and
yeah,
also the handbook. So the handbook will give you background information on when you use which canvas and how. So
yeah,
read them both. Yes.
yes. And just for your information, the lens iteration, like the rush card from Puterai will cost you 6,000 euro in 2 days. Uh, yeah, just information. But then uh, at VAS, we have used lens iteration to solve one of our problems, and we see it's really effective. But then we spend around like 2 hours per canvas, like in order to fill all the information. So within the 1 hour of our section, I think we cannot go through the canvas in detail, but you have the feeling of the canvas, and yeah, in the handbook you can see a lot of instruction on how to facilitate the canvas. And as Luan said in the last slide, the tool is just a top of the iceberg. It's more about your culture, how you approach to your process. And
Yes.
yes, so time for question. Hmm. Does the fact ask have to be a minimum viable product or okay, technically ready to use, or is it just visually demonstrating the concept?
The latter one. So just to visibly demonstrating the concept. At this point, when you're creating the fake ads, you should not invest any development effort into, and should also try not to let technical limitation limit you when you work on concepting in the first place or during the ideation, because here you want to think outside the box. You just want to test, okay, I have this idea, like I have this idea of selling solar panel to people in Finland. Does people buy it? You want to get a quick answer of to give your like a plans of how, what people think. If over 50% of people say, no, I'm not interested, then you know. But that is just very, very quick way for you to also explain about your concept in a more visual way, and to see, like I said, if you are not able to explain it in the fake ad efficiently, then it might be too complex. Then you need to strip it down even more.
Mhm. Yes. Um, um, Maybe a follow-up question at Futurai. How you actually write a fake ad? Like, what tool did you use? What platform did you use to distribute the ad?
Mm, no, it's not actually not that complex. Usually pen and paper. You can try it on pen and paper and just because the use of fake ads is usually within the workshop itself. So if I, like I talk about the common set that we used before with 3 step, this that we call lean creation service crash course. So in there, usually this we work on this canvas at the end, and then at the end you would share your concept to everyone in that course and try to explain that concept with your fake ad. So that is the purpose of fake ads, to just help you form the concept clearer and uh, trying to see if other people understand as well.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, I can add one more point to that. Yes, at Amazon, like before they build any product, they start with a press release. So, like a fake ad describing the product.
Mm.
And yes, another question from the audience is there any recommended length of the value proposition that is matter?
Recommended, sorry.
Recommended length. I mean, like, should we
Uh,
have like 3 value proposition or 5 or even 10?
uh, it depends on your products or the concept, but naturally each concept or each product should have a value proposition. So why why is this what is the value of this concept to the user and why they should choose it? I give an example here about Figma. Figma is a design tool that is web-based, uh, and Figma has different solutions for for professional like team collaboration, and then for organization, and then in here in this ad I pick here is their value proposition for Figma organization. So their target is a big design firm or a firm with a big design team. So why an organization should purchase Figma as their solution? So that is what they aim at. And then they have another value proposition for the team collaboration, which aim at designer. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's, I can say that one value proposition per concept.
Mm. And yes, uh, the next question is what are the common mistakes we may make while implementing the lean service iteration?
Mm, uh, quite many. That's why we have the facilitator role, usually coming from futurists, to help the client in how to use or how to take this lean service creation into use. But I can say that the biggest pitfall is that people usually just view it as a tool. And as a tool, like as a canvas to answer your question, yes, it could work. But in order to be able to answer this question efficiently and avoid working on it in a silo, like alone. Then you need to have the way of working. You need to agree within your organization or team your way of working and practice, and then the mindset. Like I mentioned, the basic principle of uh, LSC is teamwork, focus on the problem, be transparent in the process, iterating, and understand the impact. So the biggest pitfall is not to be able to take all of these five when you're working with LSC.
Yes. And yeah, could you come back to the slide, the ideation canvas
Mhm.
before the how might we?
Yes.
Yes, this one. Yeah, one person request to see this. Yeah, for we can also go on to the next question. Um, I'm interested in the process of how Filteric actually does the design workshop. Could you describe to us quickly how the process look like in terms of timeline, stakeholder, and tool?
Mm. Mm. Uh, Let me find a slide so it's easy to describe. Yes, so uh, this design workshop usually part of the design phase, which we call service vision sprint. And in the workshop, uh, it depends on what is the business need. But we always try to start with the workshop where we start with business objective and context. And if you want to take LSC into your design process, never skip that canvas. Even though it doesn't sound like design or it doesn't sound fun, it's very business focused, but it is very important for you and your team, like your whole team, to be on the same page on the business problem. Then you can start developing or ideating around that. Without that, you don't have, it will act as a cornerstone where you would fall back to whenever you have question or whenever you unclear about which direction you should take in your to make the decision about your product. That is where you will go back to and revisit your objective. What is it that you're trying to get? So we always start with that canvas, and then the rest of the canvas would be tailored depending on the need of the project, whether or not they have already a business, already some idea, and they want to uh, clarify that idea and then evaluate or iterate the concept. So, or then they don't have any idea, they just have an objective and they want to ideate. Then the set are different. Time-wise, usually this workshop are minimum 2 hours, uh, very minimum, because you need to, if you do first time, then you need to introduce people to the tool, or you need to introduce people to the method, get them understand like what I did today, and then introduce them to the canvas, and then let them have time to work on. Uh, the timeline we have for each canvas, usually 20 minutes, because of course in the workshop it's very limited and people don't have, usually you have all the stakeholder like decision maker or C-level people. They don't have a lot of time. So they have to make it, you have to make it efficient for them. So we keep it about 20 to 30 minutes where people work on each canvas and then discuss. And at the end of a design workshop, uh, there usually always this concept and value proposition canvas where you have a concept that you can share with the whole everyone in the workshop, and then discuss further what to do with that. Uh, so that's our setup. I couldn't say typical because it's vary a lot. And as I said that there is no one order or one way that you have to obey or follow, but when you understand the way of working, and you understand how the canvas work, you can choose it to fit into answer what to help you find the information you need at each phase by having the right question at hand.
Yes, really thank you for your presentation. I think we are running out of time. Just in case some participants have questions for you, where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can send me an email through loan.le@futurist.com. Uh, I will try to answer as clear as possible.
And yeah, and do mention that you come from Swiss, so that like she will have more context to answer your
Yes.
question. And yeah, again, really thank you for your time and your efforts in making this excellent presentation. And yeah, this is also like the end of this section, and really hope you enjoy the section and look forward to our tomorrow program, where we have a keynote about leadership and also the fundraising. Those are very interesting aspect, especially for those who want to start a visit in Finland. Yes, so thank you. And
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you, everyone.